China's crypto ban. What does it all mean? How will this impact the global markets and financial hub of Hong Kong? Where do existing crypto users and businesses in China actually go from here? Welcome to Word on the Block on Real Vision, the series that takes a deeper dive into blockchain and the emerging technologies that shape our world at the intersection of business, politics, and economy. I'm Forkast News Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Okay, so it finally happened. China finally drops the B-bomb, the often talked about ban that a lot of China industry folks speculated would come. All cryptocurrency transactions and activities banned. Well, even as China FUD was trending on Twitter all weekend, markets went tumbling. And as we saw with this year's Bitcoin mining exodus, PBOC's influence can go far beyond the markets. It can also impact jobs and lives of real people in and out of China. So what does it mean for crypto exchanges in Asia and globally? How does this impact the industry in Hong Kong? Is lack of policy support driving out innovation? Sam Bankman-Fried, CEO of FTX, might have something to say about that and so much more. Sam, thanks for joining us. It's always great to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I love that we are global citizens of the world. And as a global citizen, you are talking to us from the West Coast of the United States at the moment, from Berkeley, I understand. But halfway around the world, right here in Asia, that shoe, I guess, the proverbial shoe dropped on a late Friday afternoon. And China, PBOC, says that it is banning crypto activities for not just exchanges or industry, for everyone. What was your reaction?
So it's complicated. And I think one of the interesting things about this is it's always pretty hard from the text of what's said to try and figure out what's going to happen. You know, the text of this one was not mostly saying things that are new. It was reiterating things that had been said many times before, that some or many or most or maybe all crypto activities may fall under bans related to various pieces of existing regulation in China. You know, I think that just reading sort of the text of this against previous announcements, it makes it hard to tell what it means in practice. We've seen announcements like this come with very little follow up, and we've seen some of these come with very drastic follow up. In this time, you know, in particular, it does seem like it will have at least some impact. I mean, obviously, you've seen, you know, some significant market movements in response to it, but I think much more importantly, because I don't think the market always knows what's happening here. You've seen some reaction from Chinese exchanges, and that's always the first thing that you want to look at whenever there's an announcement from PBOC or any other Chinese regulatory body. The first thing you want to do is you look at Huobi, you look at OKEX, sometimes not. You look at Binance, and you see, are there changes? And there are some changes this time, which are actually somewhat material. I know Huobi at least has announced that they are cutting off new registrations from Chinese users. And that's a pretty significant step.
It is pretty significant. And you know, it's totally true, Sam. I mean, I think you and I have been in Asia for long enough to kind of be able to navigate and read the tea leaves, as it were. The fact that timing came out of Evergrande, which is a serious issue for China and one that could have not only domestic but international proportions, the timing of it speaks to an importance. To your point, the exchanges responded almost immediately. That's the second point. The third point, and I'm sure you and your people have been noting over the weekend, the past 48 hours since the announcement, some really interesting big moves in the market. There have been some market movements of some pretty big amounts flowing out of China or flowing within China out of exchanges. The question is, what are you seeing and where is this money going?
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing some money moving. I think a lot of this is, you know, Chinese users looking to offboard from exchanges that they think will no longer accept them. That's probably the single biggest piece of this, combined with a bit of a crypto sell-off when the news hit, which I think originally just hit crypto overall. But if you look at the last day's token movement, I think you can see something much more telling than frankly what you saw in the first 24 hours or so after the announcement. You just saw everything was down, and it's hard to know what that means, other than the world thinks maybe this is bad. But if you look, for instance, in the last 24 hours, what you'll notice is, just to read off some numbers here, um, you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum have recovered somewhat. Bitcoin's up 4.5%, Ethereum's up close to 10%. Some DeFi and DEX-related tokens are up a lot.
A
So
lot.
DYDX is up 62% in the last day.
Yep.
Sushi's up 27%. Uni's up 37%. Huobi
right.
token is down 13%. And so what you're seeing here, I think, is the market reacting to, first of all, an expectation that Huobi and, to a lesser extent, OKEX, I think they haven't yet announced what their response is going to be, if any, to this, are going to be hit pretty hard from this, that they may lose a lot of their Chinese user base, combined with an expectation that might flow to other exchanges or to decentralized exchanges. I don't know if this is true, but that's certainly what the market is implying.
Well, if we're just going to do that kind of analytical, critical thought process, if you're a Chinese user and you're not going to be able to do any crypto activities on monitored exchanges because they still do business in China, why wouldn't you go to decentralized exchange? Why wouldn't you go to a DEX? Which speaks to all those DeFi coins and altcoins that are soaring right now.
It's absolutely right. And, I think that probably the market's being a little bit overconfident in that belief, because I think that, first of all, you can imagine that there might be throttling on websites associated with decentralized exchanges in China. You could imagine actually similar sorts of clampdowns placed on those, as you see on some centralized exchanges. But nonetheless, I think there is certainly some justification for it, and it is very strongly what the market is implying.
You say a little bit of overconfidence because now comes in the policy, right? Is this policy going to be enforced? Which, we have seen these kind of edicts come down before, and then a very neutral stance, kind of a wait and see, until the moment that policy tigers come in and decide to pounce, for lack of a better word.
That's right. And to your point, I think many players in this market are currently waiting to see, right? It's obviously, it's often just not clear to most people what the answer will be there. That being said, some people sometimes know at least how it applies to them, usually only in one direction. And so one thing that you might see is some players might know that this will be enforced on them. And in fact, we have some strong evidence of that, right? If you have already shut off access to Chinese users, there's a pretty good chance that you know something about the likely enforcement of this, at least as it refers to you. And so I think that there's at least some signs that, at least for some venues, there will likely be some enforcement. Because I actually think it's unlikely you would have seen an exchange where I'm guessing a substantial fraction of their volume does come from China, having shut off registrations there without a lot of pressure behind the scenes. So I think that there's, in some cases, going to be enforcement. That doesn't mean there will be in all cases, though. And I don't know what it means. No one does. If I had to just take a guess here, right, I would look at the RMB to crypto markets, the markets where people can buy cryptocurrencies with onshore Chinese yuan, as a pretty good place to start thinking about regulatory impact. We know that is something that PBOC cares about. We know that's something they're concerned with. It always has been. It's always been a focal point. There's been a ban of centralized exchanges, but there was basically an allowance of peer-to-peer RMB to cryptocurrency trading in some specific instances. Whether or not it was enshrined in practice, it was. That is a thing that I would be looking at as canary in the coal mine here, and it's probably like the most likely thing to get cracked down on. And you do see that primarily just on the Chinese exchanges, and that's again, historically, outflows of RMB have been a substantial driver of central bank concerns in China about crypto.
Hey, if you like this clip, Be sure to like and subscribe for more crypto-related content. Also, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto.